There's a box of baking soda sitting in your pantry right now. You bought it for under $1, used a spoonful in a recipe, and forgot it existed. Meanwhile, something is moving behind your walls. A roach ducking behind the fridge, ants tracing a thin line along your baseboard, a mouse scratching somewhere above the ceiling tile. And the industry that profits from that fear wants you to believe the only answer is a contract, a monthly visit, a stranger in a uniform spraying chemicals 3 feet from where your kids do homework. Here's the truth. Nobody in that industry wants printed on a label. That 99-cent box on your shelf handles more of this than you've ever been told. Rural households that have relied on old-fashioned home remedies for generations have leaned on this same plain white powder for over a century. For roaches, ants, silverfish, fleas, an entire house, for less than $1 a month. I'm going to be straight with you the whole way through, more honest than the $18 can on the shelf, and more honest than the internet videos promising miracles. Because the truth is more useful than the hype. Pest control is a massive industry in this country, and a large share of that money comes from people who already own most of what they need in their own kitchen cabinet. But first, the single most important thing in this video, the thing that separates this from every overhyped pest video you've scrolled past, baking soda is not a poison. The claim that it makes roaches or mice explode because they can't burp is a myth that doesn't hold up to scrutiny, and I'm not going to insult you by repeating it. What baking soda actually does is simpler and more useful. It's a desiccant and a disruptor. It pulls moisture out of the air and out of the tiny joints and waxy coating of insects. It absorbs odor. And it breaks down the invisible chemical scent trails ants and roaches rely on to navigate your house. That's the real mechanism, not a magic kill switch. A patient, cheap, non-toxic way to strip pests of the 3 things they need most: moisture, odor, and a scent highway home. Understand it that way, and it works. Expect an overnight miracle, and you'll be let down the same way the industry has let you down before. Start with roaches, because this is the one that changes people's minds fastest. Mix equal parts plain white sugar and baking soda. A tablespoon of each does a small area, in a shallow dish or old jar lid. Place it where roaches actually travel. Behind the fridge, under the sink, along the back of the stove, near the trash can, in the warm gap beside the dishwasher. The sugar draws them in. The baking soda, ingested alongside it over repeated visits, works against their system slowly. This isn't instant, and anyone who tells you it is hasn't tried it. It works over days into weeks, and only if you do 3 things together. Refresh the bait every 3 days before it goes stale, and, the part almost everyone skips, take away their water. A roach can survive a month without food, but barely a week without water. Fix the drip under the sink, dry the counter before bed, don't leave pet water bowls out overnight. Bait, refresh, dehydrate. Do all 3, and a years-long infestation winds down over a few weeks instead of raging on forever. This isn't a new discovery dressed up for social media. In the mid-1800s, 2 American bakers began packaging sodium bicarbonate for household use. And within decades, home pamphlets were already describing baking soda and powdered sugar dusted along baseboards against roaches. Go back further, and ancient Egyptians used a natural mineral related to baking soda to preserve food and discourage insects from stored grain. This isn't folklore invented last week. It's knowledge that's been quietly available the entire time. Ants need a different approach, because they don't feed the same way roaches do. Use 50-50 baking soda and powdered sugar, the fine confectioner's kind, not granulated. Ants can pick granulated sugar crystals apart from the soda and leave the soda behind, but powdered sugar blends so finely they can't separate the 2. They carry both home and feed both to the colony, larvae, and queen included. Place small caps of the mixture at entry points, door gaps, windowsills, anywhere you've seen a trail. The colony thins from the inside over a week to 10 days, which is the only real way to deal with ants without leaving the nest intact to send out reinforcements. There's a second technique worth knowing, and it's the part with the strongest science behind it. Dissolve a couple tablespoons of baking soda in hot water and wipe down every surface the ants have crossed. Ants navigate almost entirely by pheromone trails laid down by the ants ahead of them. Wash that trail away, and the next ant reaches nothing, gets confused, and turns back. Bait plus trail wipe down breaks an infestation from both ends. Mice are where I have to be most careful, because this is where the internet gets reckless. Claims about baking soda exploding a mouse internally aren't reliable, and I won't tell you. A problem is solved when it isn't. What baking soda genuinely does with mice is modest. It helps with odor and dries out damp spots they're drawn to. The real fix, the boring one that actually works, is removing food and water access, sealing entry points, and setting traps. Mouse droppings can carry real disease risk, so if you're dealing with an active infestation, bringing in help isn't a failure, it's common sense. For an already built home, the honest approach is a perimeter treatment. Physical sealing, caulk, copper mesh, is what actually blocks entry points. I won't pretend a line of powder replaces that. But worked into the same seams, baking soda adds a drying barrier that discourages the crawling insects trying to use those same gaps and disrupts their scent trails. One box treats an average home's whole perimeter, refreshed a couple times a year for a few dollars annually. A few other honest, realistic uses. For silverfish, which are fundamentally a moisture problem, dry baking soda and damp corners helps by drying the environment alongside an actual dehumidifier. For drain flies, 2 tablespoons down the drain overnight, followed by boiling water breaks up the slime layer where they breed. This one genuinely works because it targets the breeding site. For pantry weevils, baking soda supports sanitation, but sealed containers are what actually ends it. For fleas, it helps lift eggs from carpet fibers when vacuumed thoroughly, but a real infestation still needs the pet treated properly. None of these are silver bullets, and I'd rather tell you that plainly than sell you a fantasy. And the limits matter just as much as the uses. Structural termites need a professional. A serious rodent colony needs traps and exclusion work. Venomous pests need real targeted strategies. Baking soda handles the ordinary, everyday nuisances, not everything. Published research has raised real concerns about heavy household exposure to common chemical pesticides, particularly around children and pets, and that's not a fringe claim. It's been documented in the scientific literature. Baking soda carries none of that risk. It's an approved food additive people already eat daily. That safety margin is the entire point. You bought a box of baking soda once and forgot it existed. Today you know what it actually does, and more importantly, what it doesn't. It won't replace a professional for a serious infestation, but for the ordinary pests that have been sending you to the store or the phone for years. That under $1 box, used patiently and placed correctly, does real work and never poisons the people living in your house. Tell me in the comments which one you're trying first. And if your own family has a home remedy passed down for something like this, share it. Because knowledge like this only survives if people keep passing it on. This has been Hidden Fix Lab. I'll see you in the next one. Ready for the Hinglish Urdu adaptation or the thumbnail brief whenever you want to move forward. Bye.